SFA is doing its part in promoting a healthy lifestyle and bringing the community together. Stay tuned to SFA Now for everything you've always wanted to know about organic gardening.
I'm Nick Bailey, and with us today to discuss growing organics is SFA horticulture expert and teaching assistant Chanel Angeny. Welcome to the program, Ms. Angeny. So, why has there been such a renewed interest in organic gardening?
Well, I think that a lot of people care about their health and have a high interest in their health and care about where their produce comes from.
Okay. And how much better is organic food than commercially grown foods?
As far as nutritional factors go, I would not say nutritionally it is better, but I think on an overall scale as far as how the produce is farmed and harvested, I think it's overall better. I think organic is a more sustainable option and more environmental friendly than the traditional commercial farming.
Okay. So what are the benefits to an organic lifestyle?
Well, you have definitely the consumption of produce without the pesticides and the harmful chemicals, as well as a lot of people who do purchase organic produce usually try and look for a local outlet that they can get their produce from, so it does support local economies. Okay,
and what are the challenges to organic farming?
Well, a lot of people, whether trying to produce a large amount of organic or just the home gardeners, they deal with a lot of pest issues, whether it's insects, bugs, weeds. And so commercially they can use pesticides, whereas organic they have to kind of be a little more creative and find out different outlets to suppress those pest populations in their garden so they can have a better produce harvest.
And what would you say are the contributions to high prices the consumers must pay in order to buy such organic products?
Well, I think there's definitely a higher demand for organic, and it's a premium product, and so it's definitely worth more.
And what are the disadvantages of intensive farming?
So intensive, there's the monoculture, which is them just planting one crop, one product throughout the entire field, which could harbor detrimental insects if it's just a monoculture. There's also the overuse of fertilizers and overuse of herbicide can run off and get into streams and water sources and things like that.
Okay, and so globally, is there a future for growing organics as far as mass production goes?
The data does show a rise in organic farming. I think that it is definitely a supplement to commercial farming.
So how did the Sprout Garden here at SFA get started?
There was, the infrastructure was already there, so the predecessor to Dr. Jared Barnes started the SFA Sustainable Educational Garden in 2012, and so they chose all-American trial species to put in their garden, and they sold it in a market. And when Jared came and took his predecessor's place, he wanted to keep the garden going. He wanted to create a community and an outlet for students and the community to gather and just have mutual interest in a better product for the community. Okay,
and can you talk about some of the events of the Sprout Garden that has held and what's planned for the future?
Sure, yeah. So Dr. Jared Barnes' Fruits and Vegetables class last fall held an event called An Edible Evening. It was in the evening that the community could come, people from the university could come and learn how to sow out their own seeds, transplant them in the ground, cultivate them, and then finally harvest them for a fall garden, because most people don't consider fall gardens in their normal garden schedule. So they could come, and then we also had a chef on site using food that he harvested from our garden to prepare fresh dishes, and then we also had pumpkin bowling for the smaller crowd. We will be on the SFA Tour of Gardens on April 30th, and so if anybody would like to follow what we're doing, what we're up to, they can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Sprout SFA.
Okay. Let's take a look at the SFA Sprout Garden and hear from some of the local gardeners.
Consumers flocking to Whole Food type stores in our larger cities are discovering the high cost of healthy eating. As a result, organic gardens are cropping up in small towns and rural communities all over the country. Many towns are growing organic gardens to benefit their local communities. The Sprout Garden at Stephen F. Austin State University is one such project.
Mostly we produce vegetables and produce that we sell at a market every weekend on Friday to try to help raise money for the horticulture program. That money goes towards buying new tools and equipment and materials to help out with the student activities and student learning in the class.
As far as the everyday kind of things, I water plants, I pull up weeds, and I make sure that whatever we're growing is actually growing and that our crops are doing just fine.
With diabetes and obesity on the rise, the need for fresh organic produce is obvious. But master gardeners cite another benefit. People struggling with addiction find gardening to be therapeutic in relieving stress that often leads to drug and alcohol abuse.
I became interested in organic gardening about 40 years ago when I was a student at SFA. I'd met some fellows there that really were talking about it, and so I started reading about it. And because of that, I've had a garden every year since then, and I've always tried to be as much organic as I can be.
Organic gardening has a twofold purpose. It's a core component of sustainable living and minimizes our footprint on the environment.
Back in the day, organic gardening was just the way of life. It wasn't a special choice. I'm glad to see the renewed interest in organic gardening, especially like the hands-on programs like SFA's Sprout Garden, which offers an opportunity to educate the public about organic gardening.
The Sprout Garden isn't just about growing vegetables. It's about the commitment SFA has in connecting to the community. A passion for healthy living brings people of all ages and cultures together.
Continuing with our discussion, our guest Chanel Angeny is sharing her expertise about organic gardening. So I have to ask you, what is your experience on organic gardening? How has it fared you?
I've always, from a little girl, my mom always had an organic garden in our backyard, and so we've always tried to produce our own vegetables from our backyard, and we loved it. I mean, it just tastes really good when we make it in our dishes, and we just feel better about harvesting our own vegetables and managing where it comes from and how we can get it.
And what does an interested viewer need to do to rent a garden bed along a Lanana Creek Trail?
So they would need to talk to Dawn Stover. She's with SFA Gardens, and her office is in the head house behind the agriculture building.
So why do you think more people should continue an organic lifestyle or be healthier in that regard?
I think that it helps in more aspects in life than just eating organic. You learn other lessons in life in the garden, and it helps you kind of reconnect with nature and eat organically, and it just makes you feel better overall, I believe.
Okay. So being that you're in the organics division, what is your diet consist of? What do you eat?
My diet consists of lots of vegetables. I love to get vegetables from the Sprout Market on Friday, and then I also have a garden at my house. And so just whatever's seasonal. Right now we have radishes that are ready in our garden. We have beautiful carrots up at school that are available that are also very delicious. They're just a lot sweeter, and you can definitely tell the taste difference between vegetables that you'd get such like at Kroger or Walmart. And so I love to eat just what's in season and what's available at the Sprout Market and what I can grow in my own garden at home.
Okay. Would you recommend people to buy organics from like your local store, or would you have them start their own garden? Which would you prefer?
Well, of course, I mean, it'll take a while for them to start their own garden, so they can supplement with organics from local grocery stores. But I definitely encourage people to start their own organic garden because you get so much more than the vegetables that you grow. So it provides a peace of mind and just an outlet of stress if you work in your garden, and so it gives you much more than just the produce that you can get from your garden.
So, I mean, for a healthier lifestyle, what would you recommend for someone like me personally? Like, would a diet like that consist? Would it be the same kind of diet for everybody, or would they have to alternate?
I mean, organic works for everybody. I mean, it's not necessarily vegetarian. I mean, you can eat meat things like that. But definitely, I mean, lots of greens and lots of vegetables are just really good for everybody. It just helps you overall. And so I definitely suggest a healthy amount of vegetables for every meal.
All right, and would you give our audience some tips on how to get their own organic garden started?
Sure. I suggest lots of patience. It takes a while to kind of get it all started and get it all working. Definitely compost is a really good source of organic material and nutrients for your plants. I know we use compost in every single bed in the sprout garden, and it makes our plants grow really, really well. And so just patience, and then definitely plant plants that do well for the Southeast, that will do well in East Texas, and that can bring in beneficial insects, because those will ultimately help the pest population and help your plants thrive.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this edition. And if our viewers would like more information on renting Ray's garden bed, as well as any other Sprout Garden events, contact Jared Barnes at barnesj@sfa.edu or at 936-468-7850. Thank you for being here, Miss Anjani. Nacogdoches, eat your greens and stay healthy.